You can feel it sort of coming through the ether. I always thought my job was to sort of encourage that, to be like a good audience member in the theater or on the stage, and just make them feel comfortable about doing whatever they're going to do. And long before, because we were shooting film, it's not like today with video. It doesn't cost much. It costs a lot.
So Ghostbusters 1984, that's obviously a big part of who we are and our existence, and to have gone to the Ghostbusters Afterlife world premiere in New York City and have that introduced by Jason Reitman and Ivan Reitman. And that was, the second time we were seeing Ivan Reitman. I mean, You could say we met him the first time, but we didn't know the guy or anything. We met him once during a quick photo. It was like hey, how you doing? We didn't really exchange words with the guy. It was cool to meet him, that we got to see him again for this new one, and it sucks that the dude's gone now.
Hello, and welcome to the Frog Bros podcast. Tonight we are doing a special tribute episode. We're going to talk about Ivan Reitman, a very influential filmmaker in our realm. So we wanted to take a moment after his passing to remember him and talk about all of his accomplishments and just kind of talk about how we're feeling about it all.
I took some basic notes basically about Ivan's upbringing and his, kind of his background before filmmaking, which is basically just that he was born October 27th, 1946. He was born in Czechoslovakia. Then he moved to Canada at 4 as a refugee with his family. Later started the Montecito Picture Company, we're all very familiar with. Like his mother was a survivor of Auschwitz. His father was a resistance fighter in World War II. He went to Oakwood Collegiate in Toronto and then graduated with a bachelor's in music from McMaster University in 1969. Worked at City TV in Toronto. That's where he met Dan Aykroyd early on. And the year 2000 is when he started Montecito Picture Company. He got married in 1976 to Genevieve Robert. Had 2 kids. Obviously, we were very familiar with Jason Reitman's work, so...
And Catherine Reitman, you're probably familiar with as well. She was in some episodes of Always Sunny, and she has her own series, Working Moms, on Netflix right now.
And she's a little girl, got the puppy taken away from her in Ghostbusters 2.
That was one thing Ivan did a lot. He would frequently have cameos by his kids and family in the movies, which I think is pretty cool. Just a nice touch to add them in for the legacy of it all.
Ivan's first movie was Foxy Lady in 1971, Canadian movie. Is also Eugene Levy's first movie.
As a director?
Yes.
Ivan Reitman, I mean.
Yes. Cannibal Girls was next in 1973. We're all aware of that just because it's on the marquees in 2 Ghostbusters movies. Meatballs, 1979, classic Bill Murray movie. We're all very familiar with this. We've reviewed it before, but just to say some more about that, it's that's transition into real Ivan Reitmaning. All right, he's found his rhythm. He's going to be successful for the next 15 years on top of the world type successful. And then after that, he'll still be around and go more to a producing role, as opposed, which he produces all throughout his career. But he did a couple other movies in here, but I'm really just going to talk about the ones that I think are the big ones for him. Striped was next, 1981. Again, Bill Murray. You have Harold Ramis in there. You have early John Candy. Judge Reinhold's in that.
That movie is so amazing. They get so many great actors in that film, and he frequently collaborates with people that he works well with, which I love.
So Ghostbusters 1984, that's obviously a big part of who we are and our existence, and to have gone to the Ghostbusters Afterlife world premiere in New York City and have that introduced by Jason Reitman and Ivan Reitman. And that was, the second time we were seeing Ivan Reitman. I mean, You could say we met him the first time, but we didn't know the guy or anything. We met him once during a quick photo. It was like hey, how you doing? We didn't really exchange words with the guy. It was cool to meet him, and cool that we got to see him again for this new one, and it sucks that the dude's gone now.
We get told all the time, hey, I love that movie, or I show it to my kids, and kids sort of discover these movies on their own. We're having kind of a renaissance. Sony just brought out Stripes again, a movie we made almost 20 years ago, and now both of these Ghostbuster movies, I'm feeling good.
One of those things like that, just, humanizing to use to see your idols age. So the great thing about Ivan Reitman is that as a kid, you loved Ghostbusters. I love that movie. And then as you get older and you start getting more interested in the behind-the-scenes elements, you start realizing what else he was involved with.
Twins, he did in 1988. We just released a review of that as well. Again, that's just he was taking a chance, like Arnold, putting him in comedy, you know. And then you have Danny DeVito, it's classic. Just to know that he was working with a wide variety of the biggest stars of the 80s. Ghostbusters 2 was next in 1989, and obviously we have a lot of feelings about that movie. We love it, but there's some issues in it, but that's just what happens. 1990, you have Kindergarten Cop, which is still quoted movie, and that one holds up very well still outside of the like Ghostbusters and stuff like that, like in Stripes, you know. Evolution from 2001. David Duchovny is for me a treasure. So you know, you have another Dan Aykroyd small role in this, but he's fun. This is, you know, been mentioned numerous times as a spiritual sequel to Ghostbusters in some sense, but everybody also, you have to bring up Men in Black in that talk because it's really better than this movie, but Evolution in itself is still enjoyable for me, and
I don't remember hating it.
The last notable one's Draft Day, because it's his last movie he directed. Again, not for me, but that's mostly because it's a sports-themed movie, and I'm not about that. That's Kevin Costner, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that
one was
movie.
okay.
That's a great one. I enjoyed it quite a bit. He definitely grew as a filmmaker with what he's able to pull off and the different tones and moods he's able to do. So,
as of just the producer, you know, you're talking Animal House, and that's kind of where he gets his foot in the door with the comedy movies and stuff like that. And then, you know, Heavy Metal shortly after that, and very iconically, Space Jam. Like Billy West said, he was the one who directed him for some of that, you know, doing his voice acting.
I'm pretty sure Ivan's the reason they were able to get Bill Murray on this. I'm pretty sure he's just kind of like, hey,
he has
you
a
know.
line in that where he's like, I'm friends with one of the producers.
Yeah.
Up in the Air, which is a Jason Reitman movie, but it's a fucking good one.
That's a great flick if you have
He
not
didn't
seen
produce all of his movies or anything, you know, so.
No, I think that was one where they kind of, that was their first real collaboration, I think.
That's a Montecito one, too, so. And then he executive produced Rabid from 1977, the David Cronenberg film. David Cronenberg, who, if you don't know, directed the famous remake of The Fly from the 80s and Videodrome, and the Beethoven 92, 93, Beethoven's second. Road Trip from the year 2000, which is, that's a movie. That's certainly like a time of those times of movies like that, and Old School, another one he produced. Disturbia from 2007, that's a underrated movie in my opinion anyway. And I'm a Shia LaBeouf fan, so. But
No, that's a great flick for sure.
How long ago did we review that?
I Love You Man from 2009. One of the best ones that he just produced.
Yeah, with Paul Rudd.
Yes. Jason Segel. I love those guys. I love them together. The fucking music video for Ray Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
That's a fucking solid hit right there to be a part of. Like, he directed a music video. That's the only one I saw him credited for, but holy shit, what a career of legendary movies, you know, like, as you can see, that's a stack that I just pulled out of my collection. I didn't go and buy all these movies today because Ivan Reitman died and I have to go talk about him, but like, I was like, all right, let me see what I have that
Well,
Ivan's been
clearly
a part
we've
of.
reviewed so many of his movies already.
Yeah. He basically changed the landscape of comedy. I mean, he's not like single-handedly, but him and a bunch of other people were doing it at the same time and did it together from like 1975 to 85. That's what all these guys were doing with Animal House and Stripes, Meatballs, all this shit. And then Ghostbusters was like, all right, we're on top of the world. Let's do a little let's experiment a little bit here. Let's do some weird shit. Let's get weird with this. Dan Aykroyd's like, I want to fucking write a movie about aliens, god damn it. I'm gonna write some weird shit, some ghosts or something. I'm fucking famous now. I can do what I want. A movie about fucking people driving around in a black Cadillac in space that glows purple. And Ivan Reitman's like, holy shit, settle down.
Yeah.
we can make a movie out of this, but hold your horses.
He's just had a lot of influence, and you think about it, and you think about how many laughs he's brought us. And, you know, we don't really know the terms around his passing yet, and I don't know if that really is going to change anything or not, but I just think that I feel very lucky that we have all of his work and catalog to look back on and laugh at.
And it truly does do something for Ghostbusters Afterlife. Like, the fact that he barely made it here, but he made it here, and he got to see the success of it,
Yeah,
and a
luckily
few
it didn't
months
get
of
delayed
success of
again,
it, too,
yeah.
you know? Like,
Yeah. It's pretty powerful, right? Because I'm sure it wasn't always easy having a director and...
Here's the interesting thing about what Jason Reitman went through, you know? You grow up with a famous director as a dad, and you're kind of being on his movie sets. Later, when he's growing up and deciding what to do, he's like, I don't know if I want to go into filmmaking and shit, until he starts seeing indie films. Stuff like Kevin Smith movies, where like, oh, really? There's people that want to do this bad, and they're even just doing little shit like that. And that fucking worked so well. I don't need to do big spectacles like my dad, but he eventually worked up to doing Ghostbusters Afterlife. But like, he started in a in a different way,
But that's
inspired
kinda-
by different stuff.
Kind of like a smaller Ghostbusters movie too, though.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like he kind of rebelled against his dad while still embracing what his dad offered throughout his entire life and what he learned from him. You know what I mean? Like, and then he went his own way, and then eventually came back. Like, oh, cool, I've learned everything now, and I'm gonna come home and, as he said, Dad gave me the keys.
That's pretty special there, and I think he's lucky to have that, and I feel like we were pretty lucky to see all that going on in the background, the interviews and everything.
I mean, it puts a whole new perspective on when you're like at Ghostbusters Fan Fest, and Ivan Reitman's there talking about stuff, and he just starts tearing up while he's talking and not choking up, not being able to talk, and Jason, puts his arm around him, and he's like, "Oh, Dad." Also, it makes it all the more horrifying that I accidentally
Whacked him in the
whacked
face with
Ivan Reitman with my proton pack in the face 2.5 years ago. Two things that I'm going to insert here, which is one of them, me slowly zooming in on Ivan Reitman, just chilling, eating his lunch. It's beautiful, man. You know what I mean? Just seeing a man in his element who's like fucking doing this badass shit, just like, oh yeah, I got to take a break and have some fucking lunch though.
Yeah, we were in line for the photo op, and he was finishing up a little lunch break, and they were making us wait, and we're like, yeah, it's Ivan Reitman. Man needs a break.
And I caught the moment on video where Paul Feig showed up and was like, oh, hey, Ivan. And then Jason walked up, and they are all shaking hands with each other and talking together. And I caught that on film. I'm going to include both those here as the ending clips to just show you some of the beautiful man himself.
But what we needed, we needed a cineast. We needed a filmmaker. We needed someone that was effective in delivering mass appeal comedies with intelligence and grace. Someone who could direct actors and also handle the massive special effects and the huge production that ensued once we got the movie going. And there was only one man, a favorite of ours in our generation. He's here tonight, Ivan Reitman.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. When I was fortunate enough to get the script from Danny and then work with him and with Harold, and later with Bill and the rest of the cast, it was really one of the greatest experiences of my life. And it's amazing here, 35 years later, it's actually exactly tonight.